In 1998, Motorola launched 66 satellites into orbit to sell a phone that cost more than a car, and they still couldn't give it away. Let me set the scene. August 23, 1999, a federal bankruptcy court in New York. Iridium Satellite LLC, the company that spent $5.5 billion, maybe more, to build a global satellite network, files Chapter 11. 70,000 people just lost their jobs. Investors got wiped. And somewhere in a corner office, someone's still holding a phone the size of a brick that nobody wanted to use. I've seen bad bets before. This one was different. This one had 66 satellites watching from space. Rewind to 1985. Motorola's on top of the world. They own mobile phones, they own pagers, they're printing money in the cellular space. But here's where the story gets weird. A Motorola engineer named Barry Bertiger has an idea. What if we could make a phone work anywhere on Earth, not just cities? Anywhere. Mountains, oceans, deserts, no dead zones, ever. It's ambitious, it's elegant. It's also the kind of idea that kills companies. The math looked clean on paper. You need a constellation of satellites, 66 of them, orbiting low enough to avoid lag, high enough to stay up there. Each one talks to the next one, creating a web of coverage. A person in the Sahara calls someone in Tokyo. Signal bounces through space like it's nothing. Bertiger pitched it internally. Motorola bought in. By 1987, they'd committed. By 1990, they were filing for regulatory approval. By 1991, they were breaking ground on manufacturing. Nobody hit the brakes. Not once. Here's what I notice about billion-dollar failures. They never start with one bad decision. They start with one good one, then compound. Motorola wasn't wrong about the concept. They were wrong about the market. They assumed demand that didn't exist. They assumed people would pay $7 a minute for a call from anywhere on Earth. In 1998, that's roughly what a cup of coffee cost. But coffee's useful. This phone, it was a status symbol for the ultra-wealthy. And ultra-wealthy people already had options. The handset itself was a nightmare. Think of a cordless phone from 1995. Now make it worse. Heavier, slower. You needed direct line of sight to the sky. Try using it indoors. Try using it under a tree. Try using it anywhere that isn't standing in an open field like an idiot. And the service, spotty, expensive, unreliable. But Motorola had already spent billions. They couldn't back out now, so they doubled down. By 1998, Iridium launched its commercial service. The marketing was slick, James Bond adjacent, global coverage, premium pricing, prestige. They signed up a few thousand subscribers, mining companies, oil rigs, expedition teams, people who genuinely needed to communicate from nowhere, but the addressable market was maybe 50,000 people worldwide. Iridium needed millions, the gap between fantasy and reality, astronomical. And I hate coincidences, so when I say that gap was literally in the sky, I mean it. The real problem wasn't engineering, it was timing. Cellular networks were exploding. By the late 90s, you could get a signal in most places you'd actually want to be. Iridium was solving a problem that was evaporating. Meanwhile, their debt was real. Their burn rate was real. Their subscriber base was not. By late 1998, they'd signed maybe 10,000 customers. They needed 600,000 to break even. The math didn't just not work, it was insulting. Investors started asking questions. Lenders got nervous. By spring of 1999, the stock was tanking. Iridium tried to pivot, bundling services, dropping prices, finding new markets. Too late. You can't unbuild 66 satellites. You can't convince a market that doesn't want your product. By August, they were done. The company that spent more than $500 million per satellite had nothing to show for it, except a constellation of expensive junk orbiting Earth. Aftermath was brutal. 70,000 jobs gone. Investors sued. Employees fought for severance. The satellites kept orbiting. You couldn't turn them off, they'd just become space debris. So they stayed up there, a $5 billion monument to what happens when ambition meets delusion. Motorola eventually recovered. They cut their losses, refocused, moved on. But Iridium, it became a textbook case. Business schools still teach it. What went wrong? They ask students. The answer's simple, everything. But here's the epilogue that nobody talks about. Iridium didn't stay dead. A few years later, a defense contractor bought the assets for pennies on the dollar. They relaunched it, and it actually worked not as a consumer product, but for what it was always meant to be. Niche users, military, emergency services, remote operations. The technology was sound. The market expectation was just insane. Motorola had built something useful. They just tried to sell it to the wrong people at the wrong price at the wrong time. The lesson isn't don't innovate. The lesson is this: technology doesn't fail, markets do. Iridium failed because Motorola believed their own hype. They confused what was technically possible with what people actually wanted. They ignored the market signals. They kept spending because stopping felt worse than continuing. That's not a technology problem. That's a human problem, and those are always more expensive. Subscribe. Every week, there's a new billion-dollar failure waiting to teach you something.